This is part 3 of the Soul of Dr. Rooosha story being read. We left off the very end of part 2 where Dr. Paul Levi was talking about the Jewish race, the Jewish heritage, and even the Jewish religion a little bit as he shared with the group. I'm going to pick up right where I left off. Dr. Paul Levi said, "Some strongly believe and say Arabs should be expelled or transferred from Israel, and they say peaceful coexistence for Israel and an independent Palestine state is not possible. I don't agree," Mohammed said, "and some people think Muslims are the bad guys." Dr. Rooosha reminded everyone, every different race of humans have humans, and as humans, we'll find some are trashy, some are rude, some are clean living, some polite, some even think their race should be exclusive and the only ones to live. We're a mess as a human race. The human soul is dark. However, we are also beautiful. Jill asked, "I know you want to talk about more other things and stuff, but doesn't the Catholic Pope, doesn't he wear a yarmulke hat too?" Dr. Rooosha addressed Jill. "That's okay, Jill. Good point. To be accurate, the Pope does not wear a yarmulke or a kippah, but a zuccuto, a name which comes from the Italian expression little gourd, as for the vegetable zucchini. Since that hat resembles a small pumpkin cut in half." Maria said, "What? I trust you, Dr. Rooosha, but I know you joke a lot too. Is that really true?" He laughed. "Honestly, I know it sounds funny or silly." Judy commented, "It also sounds sacrilegious." Dr. Rooosha solemnly vowed, "I am being totally, completely, seriously honest. The Zacuto, the Zacuto's official Latin name for the Pope's hat is called Palalios. It is also called Solo Dio, Latin for God only, to denote that those wearing such a hat have consecrated their lives to the Lord. According to the Catholic hierarchy, different color palalos denote different status, which the Catholic clergy, thus the Pope, wears a white zacuto. Cardinals wear red ones. John shouted, "Go Cardinals!" The baseball team, and the Catholic guys too. Rooosha smirked and finished with, bishops wear purple, and priests wear black zacutos." Mr. Miff said, "Often what people wear is an indication of their religion, political status, or lifestyle of choice." Rooosha drove home the point. "If I walked around in board shorts or a swimming suit and flip-flops, what might that say about me?" John said, "That you're one chill dude." Jill felt like she had the answer and raised her hand, anxious to answer, as if she was in a college class. "Jill, you gotta go pee?" asked Rooosha. "No, why?" He just said, "You want to add something?" She was glad no one else gave the correct answer before she got a chance to. "You're a surfer!" Jill wasn't always the smartest person in the room, but no one treated her dumb. "Yes, you got it." She was so proud of herself. Dr. Rooosha continued, "Outward appearances are important, don't get me wrong, but they can be deceiving also. All too frequently, people will make a judgment call on another person based on their looks alone. Our bodies are just a shell. Our real worth and true character is inside." The whole time Dr. Rooosha had his hands behind his back. He brought out his hands around in front of him, revealing a brick. He held it up and unexpectedly threw it at Mr. Miff, who caught it and threw it across the table at John. John threw it at Tony. Tony almost jumped out of the way, but did manage to catch it. He was shocked that it wasn't like any brick he had held before. Dr. Rooosha clapped his hands and called Tony to throw it to Mark. He did. Mark didn't wait to toss it at Judy. Judy's eyes were telling him, "Don't you dare." He did anyway, and she realized that the apparent danger was non-existent. So she threw it at Maria, who threw it to Lafayette. Lafayette asked Dr. Rooosha if he could throw it at the huge windows. Those who had not had a chance to touch and experience it being thrown at or to them didn't understand what the fascination was and how they were able to catch it with such ease. Dr. Rooosha granted permission. "Chuck it." Lafayette threw it full force at the floor-to-ceiling windows. The head housekeeper yelled, "No!" The brick hit the window and bounced off. That is when Dr. Rooosha revealed the mystery of why this brick didn't break the window. He picked it up and said, "It looks like a brick, don't it?" He tossed it to those who had not yet held it. It was made out of foam. The outside had the shape, texture, as well as color of a brick, but on the inside it was completely soft. Rooosha explained how some people have a harsh exterior but a soft heart. This is another illustration I absolutely love. He pulled a glow stick out of his pocket. This is simple, short, and sweet, although I wouldn't recommend tasting it. As you can see, it is not glowing yet, but as I snap it and the connection between the chemicals inside are made, it activated, and only then does it grow. Jill said, "I had a ball that only lit up when you bounced it. It looked like a normal ball, but when it hit a surface, it looked like a normal ball, but not when it hit a surface." Dr. Rooosha said, "Yes, perfect example." Mark said, "That reminds me of a story." Rooosha asked him to share it. Mark said, "Okay, it applies. On an airplane ride, this guy decides to put good leftover food in a bag. The only bag he could find was the little bag in the seat pouch in front of him. John said, "The barf bag?" Mark said, "Yep." And as he was walking off the plane, the airline attendant offered to take it from him and throw it away. But he said, "No, I'm saving this to eat later." Judy asked, "How does that apply here?" Dr. Rooosha said, "The value was on the inside." Mr. Miff said, "Not just another barf bag." John said, "The value was known only to him." "You got it," said Rooosha. "How about this?" he asked as he pulled a surgical glove out of another pocket, placed it over the top part of his head, and began to blow it up with the air from his nose. As it filled with air, it kept growing in size around the top of his head. It was very funny looking. Then, just before it bust, he let it go and it flew through the air. He explained why he did it. You can't see the air I put in that, but you can see the effects. That glove on the hand of a medical doctor can do some amazing things. I filled it with just hot air, but a surgeon who would fill a glove like that with a skillful hand and could provide life-saving surgery. Remember I mentioned earlier today that the only way to tell what is wrong with your bones is to have an X-ray or maybe even an MRI? And that I'd like for all of us to try to have spiritual X-ray vision today in order to look in on our souls, I've got one more thing that may help us do that today. For this next bit of inspiration, Dr. Rooosha slid his hand into his pocket and pulled his closed fist back out. Then he gave them the riddle. What's in my hand? I'll give you some clues. You may try to guess, but must follow the rules. No peeking, poking, or X-ray vision. See if you know before the revelation. Now, oops. Sorry about that. Now, here are some clues. You've never seen it. No one has ever seen it. Judy guessed, is it air? Rooosha said, nope. Maria asked, is it light? Dr. Rooosha said, nope. And it has never seen the light of day. John asked for another hint. The doctor peeked in his hand and then said, okay, another hint. Once you see it, you will never see it again. You'll only see it for a few seconds, and then it will be gone forever, never to be seen again. They were puzzled. Lafayette asked if it was alive. Dr. Rooosha peeked in his hand again, and he made a sad face, then said with remorse, It was once alive. Jill asked if it was a hamster. Much to her relief, he replied no. Dr. Levi asked, is it a yarmulke made of wool? Rooosha smiled. No, sorry. Mabel asked, can it come back to life? Dr. Rooosha said, no, I'm sorry, it cannot. Bill jokingly asked, can I cook it? Rooosha smiled. You can cook anything, Chef Bill. Then gave one final hint. I've been referred to in this manner and in this way before. That really stumped them. Tony asked, can you give us the clues again? Rooosha said, sure, I could, but I won't. Just kidding. Here they are, the main clues. You've never seen it. No one has ever seen it. It has never seen the light of day. Once you see it, you will only see it for a few seconds, and then it will be gone forever, never to be seen again. It was once alive. It cannot come back to life. Bill, you can cook anything. And finally, I've been referred to in this way. John guessed, is it a soul? Rooosha replied, no, it is an actual object in my hand. Something you can actually see, a physical object. Want to see? They were all very eager to see. He opened his hand, and it was a peanut. Then he cracked open the shell, saying, no one has ever seen this peanut. It was always in a shell. Then he popped it in his mouth, chewed it up, and swallowed it. And you'll never see it again. Ta-da! They cheered as Dr. Rooosha drove home the point. You can't see your soul. Our body is a shell around it. Maria added, my shell is very thick, Lafayette said, but it fits you and you're comfortable in it. Besides, I believe it is your soul that really matters, and I love you. She smiled and blushed a little. And I love you like a son, Lafayette. He responded, I'll accept that. Rooosha continued, now, let me ask you, what must a peanut have or need to develop, form, and grow? Jill shouted, water. Mabel shouted, sunshine. Mr. Roof offered, soil? The doctor said, yes, yes, and yes. You are all right. However, if you had just water, would it grow? Jill replied, "Maybe a little." "No, not much at all." Rooosha asked, "What about just sunlight?" As he brought out a bag of peanuts from under the table, opened it, and threw them in the air. The snacks showered down on them. Mabel replied, "No, it needs soil." Dr. Rooosha said, "Yep. Now, think of your soul, your spirit, as soil. When seeds of spiritual knowledge, spiritual food, spiritual healing, spiritual growth comes, what kind of soil does it land in?" Then he shouted, "Willie the Magnificent, please come back! Willie the Magnificent!" Willie lowered from the ceiling again, but this time he had flat trays with dirt in them. They all clapped, welcoming him back. As their cheers died down, he said, "We are 4 types of soil." He laid them on the floor around him. He then pulled a packet of seeds out of thin air. They loved his sleight of hand magic. He tossed some of the seeds toward a rectangular tin tray that actually just looked like a slab of blacktop with a little dirt sprinkled on top of it. This soil is a sample of the pathway that you have leading you through your beautiful garden. The seed landed on it, but it is trampled on, he said as he stepped on it, and he reached into his suit coat and pulled out a mourning dove, and birds are able to eat it before it gets a chance to get into the soil. It doesn't even start to grow. He released the bird, and it went to his feet and feasted on the seeds in the tray. He made another packet appear as he stepped away from the hard soil and bird and stepped up to the next tray. This patch of soil is not as hard, but it is shallow and rocky. He picked up some gravel, then a few of the larger rocks, which he made vanish. With the rocks in there, and because it is too shallow, and so shallow, the seeds may sprout up, but will have no roots to go down into the soil. There's just not enough soil to sustain it. Then it dries up. The bird flew over to the rocky soil, but then back to the very hard soil to continue feeding. He stepped over to the next tray. This soil comes with weeds, thorns, and some small bush. He sprinkled some seed over it. Watch closely. They couldn't believe their eyes as tiny flowers began to poke up. He encouraged them, "Keep your eyes on those little flowers." The flowers grew, but then the weeds wrapped around them on top of the soil and choked them out. Willie said the roots of the weeds also grab at the roots of the flowers, just like our worry, fear, and other desires. Things around us, toxic people and relationships, destroy us, choke us out. He moved over to the last tray. It was a little deeper and filled with dark, rich topsoil. He picked up some in his hand. "This looks good enough to eat. There may even be some worms in there, but I prefer what is grown in the soil more than just the soil." He reached into the air above him and instantly performed the illusion of a packet of seeds appearing. He opened it and dropped a few seeds, then knelt down and pushed them just a quarter of an inch into the soil as he looked over his shoulder at the bird, which came flying over to him and landed on his shoulder. "This soil is deep. It has been turned and plowed and tilled, the rocks removed, weeds removed by the root. It has been cleared out. It has an acceptance for the seed that lands on it, and the seed is able to grow and bloom. He snapped his finger. The bird flew out of the room, and a few flowers pushed up through the soil and opened up, revealing colorful candy inside of them. He took the candy and distributed it. Then there was a puff of smoke like earlier, and when it cleared, once again he was gone. They cheered again. Then Dr. Rooosha said, "What kind of soil is your soul, your spiritual life? Do you find that you are hard-hearted?" John commented, "I'm hard-headed. I think that the 12 inches between my head and my heart is broken." Dr. Levi said, "If that is true, at least you are aware, and if it is broken, it can be fixed." Tony said, "I think there are some rocks in my soil. I can be very shallow at times." Mr. Miff said, "Turn the soil, dig deep, find them and get them out." John spoke up again. "Alcohol was my boulder." Judy said, "I can identify with the weeds. Sometimes my greed is like a weed. Working here has taught me that there are more important things than how much money I make, save, or spend." "I'm a combination of the different soils," admitted Mabel. "Sometimes I'm harsh and close-minded and nothing gets in. Other times I come across a rock or a boulder, like John said. There are definitely weeds, but I think there's good soil, and when I come across good seed, it does go deep into my soul, and I'm able to produce some good fruit, maybe even a little sweetness." Dr. Rooosha agreed. "I see that good fruit in you." They all pondered things for a little while. Then Dr. Rooosha asked if they wanted to see Willie the Magnificent just one more time. It had not grown old with them, so they cheered. This time Willie sprang up out of the floor. He thanked them, then introduced his next trick. "I call this one Coin in a Cup, and I am going to show you how to do this one." He pulled out a small, fairly shallow glass cup, then reached toward Roosha's ear and pulled out a coin. "I will now put this coin in the cup by tapping it on the bottom of the glass." He stretched his arms. He stretched his arms out, revealing to them that there was nothing up his sleeve. They watched closely as he held the coin in his open palm and brought it up to the bottom of the glass, tapping it 3 times. "Ready?" he asked. They bellowed, "Yeah!" On the 4th hit, they heard the coin tinkling inside the bottom of the glass cup. He asked, "Did it look like somehow I made it go through the solid bottom and into the glass?" "You did!" shouted Jill. Willie thanked her, but said, "It just looked like I was passing the coin through the solid glass bottom." Jill said, "Yeah, that's impossible. It must be a fake bottom. I'll show you. I'll show you how I do this. I'll show you how I do what seems impossible." Willie pretended to be in slow motion. He even spoke in slow motion. "Now watch closely." He counted as he tapped the bottom with the coin again. 1, 2, 3. On the 4th hit, they watched as he slowly changed the position of the coin ever so slightly. It hit the hand holding the glass container and ended up going up and over the edge of the container and dropped into the glass. Earlier, it really did look like it was going through the bottom. He spoke normal speed again and asked, "You see in slow motion how I created the illusion? To do the trick, you have to change the position of the coin to get it in the glass. Instantly. Where am I at? Oh, insanity has been defined by doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. John said, if I changed the way I handled my money alone, things would be a lot different for me. Yep, agreed Willie. You really are magnificent, John. Willie sat down. John smiled and asked, what? No smoke exit this time? Willie laughed. I ran out. Now, I'd like to tell you a true story about my grandchildren, announced Dr. Rooosha as he stood and moved around. Maria exclaimed, Your children had children? Rooosha smiled and replied, Oh, that is confusing, isn't it? My children are so grand. No, grandchildren, not yet. No grandchildren yet. From my grandchildren. I meant a story about my children, who are grand. She was a little confused, but most everyone else got it. He continued, the first time I took them into a public restroom that didn't have automatic sinks, I laughed as they waved their hands under the faucet trying to turn the water on. They figured it was broken, so I turned the knobs and they got their hands wet. Then they put their hands under the soap dispenser and moved them around trying to set off the electric eye to trigger it. I pushed the button for them and soap squirted out. Then, after they washed their hands, they went over to get paper towels. You guessed it, they were frantically gyrating their arms and hands under the paper towel dispenser because they were so used to all those things being automatic. I had to turn the knobs for them. We are all grown up now, and no one is going to turn the knobs for us. We have to figure it out on our own, and we can. Not just wave our arms or hands around, but put them into full use to accomplish the cleaning. That is where we stand today. So let me ask you all, what are some things some of you do to feed your soul? What seeds are being planted, if any? And what do you do to help good things to grow in your soul? Dr. Paul Levi said, I wear an invisible chainmail. Tony said, like a chain letter? Paul laughed. Then he realized that Tony misunderstood, so he explained, no, chainmail is the metal chain-linked armor knights used to wear in battle. I wear an invisible one around my heart, my soul. I guard my heart. Dr. Rooosha said, like what Christians would call the armor of God. Elements you practice in your faith help you fight spiritual battles. John said, I have to insist on a personal prohibition of alcohol. I can't even allow myself one drink, and there are some activities I no longer participate in because it triggers me to want to drink. Mabel said, I use meditation to keep me from losing my marbles. Judy spoke up, yeah, I have a quiet time. What's that say? As the responses started moving around the table in a natural flow of order, each one of the 30 people there gave an answer. Paul replied, I like to take walks in the woods. Several people let out a gratifying sigh, expressing how they enjoyed that too. Maria said, I like to walk the beach walk, all alone at sunrise. Lafayette said, same with me, but at sunset. Mr. Rooosha said, I like to read, but when I'm not reading, I silently pray and go over some positive mantras, mottos, and famous quotes. Sometimes I even do a little here at work, and no one's aware because it's all going on in the link between my head and my heart. 12 inches, John smiled and measured out with his hands from his head to his chest. Mohammed said, according to my custom, I kneel and pray facing east. Rob, who was pretty silent all day, said, art. I feel like art helps me. Chiquita's answer was church. Laquanda answered prayer. Bill said, for me, mealtimes, my mealtimes, not when I'm serving others, but wait, actually, when I prepare, cook, and serve all those things are a way I help my soul grow. I love it. But when I stop to eat my own meal, that is when I feel like I'm truly able to reflect, and my soul is fed too. Jill said, I like to keep a diary. Nate, Missy, James, and Tasha said they journaled, some more than others. Judy spoke up again and said, my mom and dad, or my mom especially, had a prayer closet. She literally went into a small room that at one point was a walk-in closet, and at another point it was my sister's nursery. She'd close the door and spend time alone talking to God. Willie said, I read, do art, practice illusions, and perform, as you've seen. I feel like when I'm active, that is when my soul grows. But also, being around great people like y'all, and yeah, time alone too helps me. What do you do, Dr. Rooosha? How do you get your armor on? Asked Willie. Rooosha said, all the above are great, and each of us so different. So there will be various ways, but for me, music plays a big part. And my personal focus is always on asking God to fill me with the spirit that possessed Jesus Christ. As most of you know, I personally believe he is the only way to eternity. But I don't condemn any of you in your own soul-searching and building exercises. I led a chat room online one time called A Belief Beyond Belief. And I would ask people, strangers really, to share what they believed and why. I love that. In America especially, people have freedom of religion. They can express their free will, choose, make their own choice, and not be forced to worship any particular way, person, place, or thing. The government doesn't restrict anyone, unless it comes down to harming themselves or others. The main thing today was to get in touch with our souls. I do personally believe the afterlife is determined by what you do or allow for your souls while alive, but that wasn't the subject and topic for us today. Today, was just about the human soul while we are alive. I know we all believe something different, and we all have our reasons why, but how great it is, and it has been, to come together and consider not what makes us tick scientifically, physically, religiously, politically, but spiritually. I appreciate each one of you. You are good-natured people, and your willingness to talk about your soul-searching and soul growth has been most rewarding. I think I'd like to close with a verse. The heart is hopelessly dark and deceitful, a puzzle that no one can figure out. But I, God, search the heart and examine the mind. I get to the heart of the human. I get to the root of things. I treat them as they really are, not as they pretend to be. That's from Jeremiah 17, verses 9 through 10. May those of you who have traveled here today be safe on your way home, and may you continue to search, find, and feed your souls. The end. Down in the description, you will see a couple things written there if you're interested. If you enjoyed this story, you'll really enjoy Fair Science, which was really where Dr. Rooosha character started from. I just want to give my deepest thanks to my wife Rhonda for sticking with me through the many hours of putting up with me talking about what I was writing, what I wanted to write, and then after it's written, just talking. And even now, she came out and then went back in the bedroom because she still loved trying to record what was written. And also to all of my children, Abbey, Madi, Olivia, Alexx, Kyri, and Christopher and Carol-Ann, which are my stepchildren, Rhonda's children, as well as my whole family and friends for all their inspiration, their love, their care, their prayers, and their support through all of this. I hope that you enjoyed it, and you'll enjoy some of the other ones too. If nothing else, at least I have it written down. It's on my blog, online published, and now it's recorded on YouTube as well. So thank you again so much. God bless you, and you bless God.